Welcome back to Rated Radio with your hosts, Rayburn Alexander and Shane Wyndham. Shane, what Billboard hit did we cover this week?
That would be Levitating by Dua Lipa.
And what did you think of it?
70s disco dance vibes meet that chill, floaty, modern musical undercurrent. I found this somewhat dull and a bit off-putting at first, but it's catchy enough to really begin getting under your skin in a good way. Nothing deep or musically unique, but it has a really nice, unoffensive groove that I'm happy to let play if it ever comes on my shuffle. 5 stars.
I thought this was a catchy, pop-driven track. Reminds me of summer driving with the top down, but lacks the additional wow factor to make it a 5. I gave it 4 stars.
Not bad.
Not bad.
I think we're still almost always in the same ballpark. It's just the way that you score your 5s and the way that I score mine are just a little different.
Different, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, enough about that. Let's roll the intro. Give the people what they came for, Rayburn, which is some musical movies.
Shane.
Yeah, I'm up first.
Let's talk about the movie musicals that you picked for this special.
To clarify, we each got to pick 3.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going head to head here. We're not rating this because they're films, so we're not scoring this the way that we would normally. Basically, Rayburn got to score any way she wanted to, and I scored any way I wanted to.
Yep.
So let's see how it goes.
I mean, we still stuck to the 1 through 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. I always score movies with quarters. So it could be a whole number. It could be like a 4.25 or a 2.75.
I didn't want me to score a 5, thinking that that's like the tippity top. You know, if you're scoring 10.
No, this is a genuine instance of my 5 would definitely be tippity top.
Okay.
Tippity top.
Okay. Let's get to your first movie that you selected.
It was Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm from 1938. This was my bottom film.
Well, we're already differing a little bit because I didn't do top, bottom, and middle. I just gave it a rating. I gave it a 5, and I'll tell you exactly why. Shirley Temple as Rebecca adds her usual charm and continues to provide a simple yet wholesome movie for the whole family.
So I gave this one a solid 4. It's 4.0. So 3.5 would be decent. 3.75 would be good. 4 is great. So this remains one of my favorite Shirley Temple movies, and I find it fairly amazing that something this solid came out a mere decade after sound in films became a reality. Much older now than when I first saw the film, I feel more attached to it than ever. Temple both looking uncannily like one of my nieces, and her personality reminding me of my own son. The movie doesn't want for great casting or charm either. Having said that, though, it's not a perfect experience. The misogyny and veiled racism from the film's era infect plenty of its runtime, and a lot of the songs, while good, are stationary affairs, a little more than people singing into microphones while they sway in place. My adoration of this movie is mostly owed to its plot, dialogue, and characters. Additionally, I find my mind blown at how endearing the music tends to be, considering plenty of it is essentially meant as a radio advertisement. The last great rush of family movies with this level of quaint delight ended more than 20 years ago. That's left me yearning for these types of reminders on occasion. It's very much worth watching, even routinely, but calling it one of the greatest movies or musicals would be a bridge too far.
I agree. While I rated it a 5, it, like Shane said, has its problematic moments that I'm sure a lot of people will realize when looking back on it. It is most definitely a product of its time, but that does not take away from how charming it is and how charming the general cast can be. The music is enjoyable, and I found myself continuing to be interested in it, even though it is an older film, which is not something that you can say about, I'm a 30-year-old woman going back and watching Shirley Temple movies. I grew up with Baby Take a Bow, or Baby Takes a Bow. So I never even saw Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm.
Pretty sure I've seen them all at some point.
I think I was going to say, knowing our grandmother and your mother.
Heidi was really big in our home. There are a few others, but it's whatever.
I liked at the end where she gave callbacks to all of her songs that she made famous.
From her other movies?
Yeah, like
Yep.
Animal Crackers in My Soup, all of those. I just thought it was a decent callback because it almost felt like Temple was breaking the fourth wall because she looks directly into the camera
Yeah.
and is talking to the viewer.
Yeah, it's pretty. There are a lot of neat things there. It's just the handful of moments. The misogyny you still see in all
Yeah.
sorts of places.
Yeah.
It's a little heavy-handed there
Yeah.
at times, but really the racist undertones in some of the music. There's some line I'd never even paid attention to at some point, but something they were singing at one point about like the white man fought the war or something. I'm telling you, like if you're paying attention and you
Okay.
hear it, it's crazy.
Interesting.
Anyway.
For most that don't know, this was Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm was based off of the book Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm by Kate Douglas Wiggin. Another fun fact is this also has an appearance from Jack Haley. If you know that name, he was the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. And I saw his name and I immediately knew who he was.
And he's amazing.
He is. I also want to talk about, I literally gasped during watching this movie. Can you guess when?
When they fell in the...
When the fucking pig well scene where he jumps and him and the pig fall into the well literally made me gasp out loud.
It looks real.
It does, and all I could think
It
about
might be real.
all I could think about was fuck that dude, that poor little piglet. All that, because I mean that was a real animal. So yeah, literally made me gasp.
That's another one of the drawbacks for me too, was the pig. Like listening back in headphones and watching the movie, like that pig squeal on those old microphones.
Yeah.
That was really the only like highly negative sound issue in the film. But anyway, we're rambling.
This movie is also notable as the first movie in which Temple's mother did away with the trademark 56 curls that Temple was known for. So there
What
you go.
in the fuck?
There you go. Oh,
So
wait, one last thing. One last
one
thing.
last thing.
Shane didn't list it on his list because we talked about this, but I will be listing my favorite songs from each musical. And from this musical, it is Old Straw Hat.
Cool.
There you go.
I like that one.
I mean, they sing it probably like 4 times in the movie.
Yeah, and I think one of the things now that I'm older, one of the things that I appreciate more, it's the same thing that I appreciate about the end of the film. It's one of the few times where you actually get the mixed race thing going on camera,
Yeah.
and it just works.
When they're picking berries?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a character named Aloysius, and I'm pretty sure he barely ever even talks, but still, it's
They were actually really good friends in real life.
that doesn't surprise me.
They've done multiple movies with each other, and they were really, really good friends. I think she called him, like, I forget his name, but she called him Uncle whatever his name is. And they would, they got along really, really, he was really close with her and her mother. So that connection, that's very real. That's very like an uncle and a niece sort of situation.
Yeah, I try not to count these things too much against a film because it's the historicity of the film. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I still think about it and it still bothers me. But I also don't know if the people who made those decisions and casting and everything else, if it was influence from other racist norms in society, or if that's just what audiences expected or a strange combination. We're way out in the woods here.
Oh, if you want to talk about racism, we'll get to that
Okay.
in another selection.
Well, my next pick was from 1968. It's Finian's Rainbow. This was my top film.
No shit. Don't chastise me.
Go ahead.
I gave it a 4.
Okay.
It's hard.
Is it now?
You've seen it a million times.
Yep.
Well, on the surface, some issues and humor of the film can seem rather politically incorrect. It does a good job of correcting some of those mistakes with the overall messages of the movie. The optimism and choreography is by far the standout for this flick. And if you love a stare, this one is for you.
I gave this one a solid 5.0. Mm-hmm. That's 5.0. It's not the music ratings. This is tippity top. Is that how you put it?
Tippity top.
The heart, the humor, the music, the choreography, originality, and even the setting here make for one of the purest experiences I know of in the realm of film. It feels like magic plucked straight out of the innocent mind of a child. The casting is flawless. This was Fred Astaire's final major musical film, as well as the movie Francis Ford Coppola worked on a mere 4 years before delivering The Godfather to the world. Yeah, watch this film and square that in your head somehow. Blackface be damned. This is one of my top 10 films of all time. With a powerful message of anti-racism, I also think this is a must for young minds to be exposed to. I've carried this movie with me as a beacon on the darkest days and sincerely hope our discussion of it here leads it to be the same positive force for all of you on the listening end.
Okay, I'm glad that you mentioned the, racism that you were talking about. And that's where my comment of, although it may seem politically incorrect, it does a really good job at correcting some of that with the overall message. If your only takeaway from this film is that, you really need to be evaluated and watch it again, because if you pay attention at all, you know that that's not the message of it.
Yeah, you may have to finish it out or just watch more. Yeah. It's not like they're putting those things there to be funny for the era or anything. It seems like they're forward thinking within the film, and why they do what they do.
I also want to mention that the original choreographer, Hermes Pan, was fired due to Coppola feeling his choreography was too old-fashioned.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot, too, that there are a ton of people who thought that the Broadway musical was so beloved that they should never have touched this. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's just that I don't have that same experience. I know you can actually buy the soundtrack for. Yeah. There was a recording of the Broadway film itself, and I've never listened to that, but this is engrossing.
Yeah.
Like, what he did here is masterful. And the older I get, the more I do see that some of it is, in a studio or whatnot, as opposed to out in the woods. But
what isn't
God, I
nowadays?
Want to live there. And I feel such a kinship to Og.
Yeah.
That it's ridiculous. That's the part of myself that I feel like I'm slowly losing as I get older. So that notion of him losing himself, you'll see in the film. But it's...
I know exactly what you're meaning. He kind of has to let go of the person that he was in order to become the person that he wants to be. But I thought you were making the comment of you loving the girl that's near.
I mean, that too. Like I said it in the beginning of the podcast, I think it was our second episode maybe where we did that. Just, that's my jam. Like,
yeah, I know.
I understand it. I want to feel connected to people that I'm attracted to.
Yeah.
And people that spark me mentally, so those two things go kind of hand in hand. It's just that the physical is something you see and immediately. Yeah. Versus having to sit down and have a conversation with someone and get to know them and really understand.
I would even compare it to, and this, if you don't understand, you don't understand. Finian's Rainbow, in a way, is extremely comparative to movies like The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like The Wizard of Oz after she went over the rainbow, when she's in Oz. It's extremely colorful. You almost feel like you're walking through a haze of color in that movie. And it's good. I love it. I love that movie.
And just like The Wizard of Oz, there's some shit you're going to see in that film that you're never going to see anywhere else.
Yeah.
You're just not.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a damn leprechaun get lifted in the air by a dress? Never seen it before in my life until I watched Finian's Rainbow.
Yeah, or a tree walking around following someone in the woods.
That's true.
So there's so many things there. By the way, it would be remiss of me to not mention that I know a lot of people, and I apologize, girls, if I'm getting this wrong, but my sisters, I specifically remembering thinking that the scene where he's burying gold, and he's gold. Like they just thought that was the creepiest thing ever. In a good, funny way, I think. Anyway.
Since we were talking about good tunes from that, I want to say that Old Devil Moon is still my favorite. That Old Devil Moon.
I used to hate that song.
When
I was young.
So
I don't know.
good.
When I was young, it felt old and stuffy. And I appreciated the scene, but older now? I
it's
love
like,
it.
It's got a level of maturity.
Yeah.
And love it. Love it.
So the last film that I picked was The Greatest Showman from 2017. This was my middle film.
I gave it a 5.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't know we were going to do like top. We changed up our way of doing things so much.
It's just kind of...
I gave it a 5.
Free rolling. Do what you want to do.
Not only did I find this movie a joy to watch, but the visuals, choreography, and musical numbers were nothing short of magical. It really embraces the idea of individualism and celebrates the strange in us all, while also not forgetting to dream and not to dismiss the magic that awaits in front of us all the time.
So I rated it a 4.5.
All right.
So right in the middle of my other two films. This flick definitely takes some liberties with the reality of who Barnum was, and Jackman's voice isn't about to win any awards, but his performance here is stupendous, so I wouldn't dream of recasting the character. The spectacle of the film is immediately immersive, and most of the songs are among my personal favorites in the realm of musicals. The wins don't stop there, though. This is a circus film, after all, with exquisite choreography. The dance numbers are bold and wowing. You could easily be forgiven for thinking Baz Luhrmann had a hand in this thing's creation. He didn't, but for the most part, it's that good.
It's very Moulin Rouge-esque.
Exactly. One of those rare films ballsy enough to do things like juggle multiple love stories, and it succeeds. There's an amount of historicity here too, which only adds to the cool factor. This is somewhat the story of society beginning to normalize acceptance of those it once called freaks. That's pretty inspiring. It gets quite hokey in spots, so I could see it turning off a portion of musical haters, but you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who claims there's nothing redeeming about this watch. Uplifting escapism at its finest, a heavyweight roller coaster of a film, maybe not one of the greatest movies ever made, but damn does it ever live in the same zip code. That trapeze love scene alone is enough to keep me coming back.
I found out watching the trapeze performance that Blue's never seen the movie, but apparently he listens to the soundtrack quite a bit.
There you go. Proves my point.
So while Shane said, Jackman's not going to win any awards for being the best singer, even though he was also in Les Mis and did very well in that. Mm-hmm. For me, the standout is the choreography, the colorfulness, the story. The choreography was amazing in that movie. I think the best singing that you're going to get from the movie is the Never Enough and the opening scene, which is The Greatest Show, because multiple voices are supporting that. Okay. I mean, it's not just Jackman supporting it. One thing that I want to say about the Never Enough song in it, Jenny Lind, who is the character, was actually played by a Swedish singer called Rebecca Ferguson, but they did not use Ferguson's actual singing voice. They used another singer named Lauren Allred. What the fuck is that about?
I don't know.
That's kind of cold-blooded.
Seems strange.
For anyone that cares, Panic at the Disco also does a version of The Greatest Show that is very good. Shane might disagree, but...
Haven't heard it.
It's
Probably
good.
disagree.
Okay, yeah. But one more thing that I wanted to show you, Shane, is if you watch the ending credits to The Greatest Showman, you will see Wolverine. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they did it just to pay homage to Hugh Jackman. So yeah, in the end credits, there's a border, and if you pause it, you'll see... all the way around, it's Hugh Jackman and the Wolverine claws across, making the X across his chest.
I am really blanking. Help me. What's his love interest name? The actress.
Michelle Williams.
Michelle Williams.
Mm-hmm. I thought you might have like a little tiny boner for her.
I do.
Okay.
I mean, it ain't tiny. I don't mean that like in general it ain't tiny. I mean for her.
She does surprisingly well in a singing capacity.
I love her work.
Yeah.
She's kind of an unsung hero of the film, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my picks. Why don't we go ahead and take a break unless you have more that you want to...
No, I'm good. I'm ready to get on to my choices.
All right. Well, let's take our break first and do some musical storytelling. So the list that I picked here is pretty straightforward. It's songs found in movies or shows.
I don't know about if we're calling this straightforward. I think that there are a couple of different interpretations that we could have taken from that. I'll give mine in a minute.
You're really bothered by my lack of specificity sometimes, huh?
I swear sometimes I think you're testing me.
No.
Okay.
What do you have?
Okay, so I went in the direction of either songs being performed by a fake band in a TV show. Basically, songs being performed by the actors in the TV show or movie. So none of them, with the exception of one, are actual singers. And if you go to my Spotify, you'll find that this is a double list. I did 20 because I couldn't help myself.
I think I did 2, maybe 30. I don't remember. And I did kind of it's like big Hollywood love ballads and then just movie songs that I really love from films and shows, whatever.
Okay.
Let's hear your story.
Well, I went with Tender Years by John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band from Eddie and the Cruisers. I can remember gathering around the TV as a preteen, blasting this movie with my family. And to this day, my brother still thinks that he's Eddie from Eddie and the Cruisers. It is simple moments like these, listening to simple songs like these, that take me back to the tender years we celebrated as a family. No one tells you to cherish these moments when you're in them, so here's your reminder.
I have no idea what that song is, by the way, or what you're referencing.
You've never seen Eddie and the Cruisers?
Nope.
It's so good. I swear, it's right up your alley.
Okay.
You gotta watch it.
So my pick was Secret Garden by Bruce Springsteen. This one's something of a cheat because I'm always thinking of the Jerry Maguire dialogue version when I hear this song, and that's not what you find on Spotify.
She'll let you in her.
That shit is good. I'm sorry.
It is good, but I always think of the shut up.
Yes.
You had me at hello.
Anyway,
Sorry.
I went with this as my story pick because I think the movie depicts my adult life better than most other films I can think of. I've taken some really big chances in my career. My wife has been there rolling the dice with me, much to my surprise every time. The connection these two share, the hardships they almost don't make it through, Jerry's rather sordid past, even the personality of the child in the movie, it all speaks to my lived experience. This life thing has rarely been easy, but it's always managed seeming valuable on the other side of each storm. I'm lucky, and I hope I continue being so lucky. You could say feeling that way is a good measure for whether or not any relationship's worthwhile.
Who's your daughter in that movie?
My daughter?
Yeah. Who would your daughter be?
I have no idea.
Rod Tidwell.
Oh, okay. Maybe. I'm really waiting to see what her personality is going to be like. But
Total Rod Tidwell. I'm calling it now.
yeah, she will definitely be the teenager screaming, "Show me the money." Anyway.
We both went kind of sappy. Get over it. This is our fucking podcast.
Yeah, and if you want to hear more, which of course you do because you bought the special, go listen to our playlist and we'll shut up about it and get on to Rayburn's movie picks. Let's do it.
All right, let's get to my first pick. It was The Rocky Horror Picture Show from 1975. I gave this a 4.
This was my bottom film.
I'm not surprised. While a cult classic, on the surface, this film may not be for everyone, as it touches on subjects such as gender and sexual fluidity. Not always politically correct, this film was way ahead of its time and encourages those to not wait in the wings and dream, but be the dream itself.
I gave it a 3.75.
Okay.
Wonderfully unique with some genuinely unforgettable songs and sequences. Tim Curry almost single-handedly carries this cult classic, which blurs the line between musical, horror, drama, and science fiction genres. Additionally, the treatment and depiction of trans realities here is far more lovely than most modern mediums pull off. Still, it's a pretty convoluted plot that wound up feeling dull and pointless toward the end, and some of the songs are pretty weak. I completely support the notion of this being an experience everyone should have at least once, which I had not had until just now, as everyone probably knows by now. Just understand ahead of starting Rocky Horror that the weird factor is why some people hail this as one of the best films ever. It isn't. But what it is a highly memorable film which no major studio in the current day and age would spend money creating. And that makes the whole thing seem all the more commendable for ever having managed existing in the first place. I wish more movies were this daring, and it doesn't hurt that my hometown of Denton is the film's fictional setting.
It is. As Shane said, Tim Curry is amazing and definitely carries this entire production on his shoulders. Songs, while unconventional, have a slow burn and are catchy as hell. When I first watched Rocky Horror, it didn't sit the way that it does now.
I feel like this is a film that might grow more on me over time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could watch Tim Curry as a transvestite.
Yes.
It was phenomenal.
Yes.
That part of the film is absolutely phenomenal.
And I've always said, I know that Brad and Janet add like a balance almost, and to this unconventional characters and this unconventional story. But Brad and Janet still to this day are the most boring thing about this film for me. And I've always said, like, damn it, Janet, I could just do without it. I get why it's there. I get it serves its purpose, but it's just, in comparison, it's not worth my time.
Breaking people out of the mold
Yeah.
that they're in mentally, I'm guessing, is the idea. One thing that's interesting is I didn't realize, I'd never thought about the name of the film or that there might be a character
Named Rocky.
I always just assumed it was the lead character for some reason, and that is definitely not the case.
Nope. Future stars are in Rocky Horror Picture Show, such as Susan Sarandon, Meatloaf, and Little Nell. Meatloaf almost didn't participate. This originally was a stage play that they turned into a film. Meatloaf portrayed Eddie originally, and Dr. Scott. They were played by the same person. And Tim Curry was originally Frankenfurter. So when Meatloaf was going in to do the stage play, he got told that at one point Dr. Scott has to be like in fishnets and like raise his leg. And he was like, I'm not fucking doing it. I can't. I quit. I'm not doing it. And then they convinced him to do it his first night just to see. And when he raised his leg and pulled the blanket back and showed off his fishnets, the crowd went wild. And he said he knew from that moment that this was something that he wanted to be a part of. So
I really enjoyed him in that film.
Yeah.
I think I would enjoy Meatloaf in anything.
His very short-lived period.
Yes, it was. Much shorter than I was anticipating.
Yes.
That's for damn sure.
Yes. Next film that we covered was The Producers from 2005. I gave this a 5.
This was my middle film.
The Producers is a story from the genius comedic mind of Mel Brooks. The musical numbers have a classic flash reminiscent of a real Broadway show. This movie does not disappoint with the comedy as well as realizing exactly what it is and gets a lot of enjoyment at poking fun of itself. Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick are wonderfully cast in their roles, and the rest of the cast does their part to support their show wherever it's needed. If you like humor and you like musicals, this one's it.
I gave this one a 3.75 as well. I wasn't the biggest fan of the original version of The Producers. You may have just checked out on my opinion, period.
No, it's all right.
But
I'm hanging in there.
That is what it is. This one definitely left a more desirable taste in my mouth, cartoonish though it is. The music was much improved and the comedy landed more often. I never quite got over the feeling that I was watching Timon from The Lion King.
Oh, come on.
Dealing with a dadified, disturbed Ferris Bueller. Sorry. Also not in love with the story's foundation. I just don't find the premise all that interesting, but the old school Hollywood musical vibe they were going for was nailed in the best way. Will I watch this movie again? Probably not, but it made for a primarily fun watch so long as I ignored the ridiculousness of it. Entertaining visuals, sound, and comedy gags in a movie which otherwise lacks romance or depth. If you're just looking for something different than anything else you've seen, this will get you there. But be prepared for a story that lacks a relatable baseline. Worth mentioning that in spite of my criticisms, this film has charm in droves. The magic they managed making atop the world's plainest plot sandwich truly is special in places. The performances are astounding, puts the original to shame. Again, though, the story itself is whack beyond all comprehension. Also runs a bit long.
Okay. All right. Well, to harden the blow a little bit, I forgot to list my favorite Rocky Horror Picture Show song. That was I'm Going Home. Yeah, I'm going to try not to think less of you because this is my favorite musical. There's just something about it. I will watch it over and over and over again.
It's very you.
It's very me.
That's not a bad thing. I'm not, like I said, I thought it was good.
I think it's hilarious. I've also had the pleasure of seeing this performed on stage, and it was just as hilarious. This is directed and written by Mel Brooks of Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, Spaceballs, and Little Rascals. The studio wanted to switch the Hitler storyline with Mussolini because they thought Mussolini was nicer. Brooks refused to change.
Bravo.
Mm-hmm. Original movie musical was from 1967, which starred Zero Motzel and Gene Wilder, who you know from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
And there are some redeeming factors about that version of the film. So,
like I said, this is my favorite musical. So it holds a special place in my heart, as Finian's Rainbow does you, and I make no apologies for loving it.
Not asking you to make any apologies.
Just
like
telling
I said,
the listeners.
There was a lot there to love. I'm really big on plot. I want to be drawn in. Mm-hmm. There was just something here that okay, see, the problem is I said there was something here. And the problem is there wasn't something here
there
that caught me at all.
Okay.
Like, I think as you get more towards the end of the film.
Oh, when he runs off?
I just mean like they start to finally introduce some romantic things, kind of.
Oh, okay.
And things start to come together. In the beginning, it's just this wild, all over the place mess of why do I care? I mean, it's funny to think of, a failed movie producer who's just fucking old women to get money. But
I think for me, I don't know. Maybe I focus a lot on the performances of the individuals.
and those were great.
And they really were good. I mean, I love Nathan Lane. Matthew Broderick does something completely different that we haven't really seen him do aside from that one period in Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't seen him do anything like this. And to have him play a cowardice, shaking in his boots, I need my blue blanket wimp.
And maybe if you're grabbed in the beginning of it a little more, maybe the Timon thing won't actually come through the way it did for me. I was just clutching at straws trying to get the film to hold my attention beyond the spectacle, because there's spectacle there, the same as with The Greatest Showman.
Yeah, there's a lot of flash
There's
there.
a lot going on.
Yeah, I will say, for those of you that don't know, because it blew my mind, if you've ever seen the movie, Carmen Gia, who's one of the gay men that, yes, that is the voice of young Hercules.
Nice.
The singing voice of young Hercules. Yep, never knew that. And the whole keep it gay. Yeah, like, love it. Here for it. Absolutely love it. And Blue really likes it too. Blue really loves the producers. His favorite thing to say is, my blue blanket. That's his favorite thing.
It's a good Adam Sandler film as a musical. That's,
Okay, all right. Like the worst Adam Sandler.
no, like a good one, but maybe one of the worst plots from one of his films. Like that's
Okay.
something about the plot just didn't hold me here.
That's
and
fine.
that's really
That's
all
fine.
that
It
drug
doesn't-
it down in a
It
big
doesn't
way.
tarnish my view of it
Good.
at all.
Good.
So anyway.
Nice to know that we're not changing each other's
No, we're
minds
not.
here at all.
One more thing before we move on. My favorite song is I Want to Be a Producer. I sing all these songs all the time, but that is the one that I probably sing the most. Moving on to our next movie, which was La La Land from 2016. I gave this a 5.
This was my top film.
Okay. I had a feeling it would be. This story is reminiscent of old Hollywood and a sense of some musical numbers reminding me of something straight out of a Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire flick. The singing may not be the standout, but the visuals and honesty of this film stun. Between the acting and the music, it really tells the somewhat tragic story in the most subtle of ways.
You really had to say Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire.
I did. I had to.
Oh, my God. Okay, well,
Don't
Okay.
you dare.
I'm allowed to disagree if I want to.
Go ahead.
All right, big Rogers and Astaire person
know.
over here, right?
I know.
Okay.
I said reminiscent.
So I rated this film a 4, 4.0. It really does not start off on the right foot.
With the traffic scene.
The look and camera work are memorable, but the music is that bright, jazzy pop shit that's responsible for so many people hating musicals. And we're supposed to believe the initial characters are adults, even though they're written like high schoolers. The production there in the beginning, it just feels so forced and over the top that the music numbers lose their believability for me. A lot like a stage play can when it fails to be immersive. Thankfully, though, Gosling's character is there to give some much needed heart.
I knew it.
The sensual skill brought to the table by his melodies and persona present as genuinely artful, which completely undermines the rest of what ends up on display here. It's clear that this film was built upon the notion of blending a storyline akin to Valley Girl with a return to the form of classics like Singin' in the Rain. It succeeds in that more and more as the film goes along. I'd call it a spectacle of imitation with great cinematography and choreography. The cinematography, I'm just going to stop here in the middle. Some of those shots that look like they run for minutes at a time without breaking. Wow.
They do run for minutes at a time. Most of those were shot in one sitting.
Yeah. And that's why it's a media darling.
Yeah.
So beloved, so highly rated if you look at it online. But if you look at some of the normal viewer scores, you're not going to, just because a shot is impressive doesn't mean you want to watch it over and over again. There's a shot in Goodfellas that runs for like a minute straight where they go through the back of a kitchen and there's so much happening. That's a cool scene. But if the film didn't tie everything else together, I wouldn't be watching that movie just for that scene, right?
I got you.
This movie also has some music I wouldn't want to hear outside of the film. A few pieces I don't even want to hear again in the film. And now that I've front-loaded this review with tons of perhaps my too critical opinions, right? A little too critical opinions.
Okay.
Allow me to walk some of it back by pointing out that this movie does go on to feel more and more unique and enjoyable. Often ridiculous? Yes, that too. But I still got fairly lost in it about 30 minutes in. And it held me, and that's a win in the world of cinema. Romantic jazz lovers will undoubtedly dig the majority of this film. You just have to suffer through that stumbling start and be prepared for a lot of overly rehearsed theater vibes, which sometimes turn into Disney-esque songs or big band instrumentals. Eclectic and beautiful with some standout moments, but not everything I'd heard it made out to be.
I will agree with you with Ryan Gosling being like the standout. He is by far the most interesting character in the movie. But I can't deny Gosling and Stone's chemistry. This is the third film that they had done with each other, and I feel like they work really, really well with each other.
Yes, they do.
Stone originally started out as a singer, but her acting is really the standout in this movie. It's not her singing capability for me. She is a very talented actress. This movie also stars John Legend and J.K. Simmons, and Gosling actually learned piano for this role, which it's, I don't know, there's something melodramatic and enticing when those familiar notes really start to play, and it sets the mood.
It's like seeing jazz live, and we've talked about how amazing that can be.
Yeah, and we know what that feels like, sitting in a crowded room and everything falls dark and you're just hanging on every note.
A really cool thing, by the way, in the beginning of the movie, my son was jumping him. I watched the movie twice, just so
you did?
Yeah, I did.
Did you watch it once with your wife?
I initially rated it at 3.75, and I didn't feel like that was... Like, I kept thinking about it over and over, like, okay, something's wrong. And I just realized it was the start of the film. But at the start of the film, there's the scene where she's doing the interview, right? Like, to be in the part.
The audition, yeah.
And because Taylor's jumping around on me, I completely missed that she was in an interview. And I thought that was part of the movie. Like, that she was having this phone call.
No, she's a struggling actress.
It actually played as real until the person came in the background and interrupted, and
Oh my God, dude! When I saw that, and when I rewatched it again, because I originally saw this movie in theaters with your wife, we decided to lose our loser husband and boyfriend and go out together to watch this movie, and we loved it. And I remember us getting so pissed off by the end of it because you're expecting a happy ending. And in ways, it is a happy ending, but not in the ways that you want it to be.
Yeah. They give you the best of both worlds. That's another problem with it is the end, they let you see what you want to see. There's wish fulfillment there. The problem is the way it actually ends makes no sense.
I wish that they wouldn't have shown us what it could have looked like. He would have sacrificed everything for her. But in a way, it doesn't look like he's sacrificing what he loves or what he wants because he gets her. And now he doesn't. I mean, we're spoiling the ending, but I wish they would have never showed us what it could have looked like.
Okay.
And I understand because she would have gotten everything that she wanted either way. But they're both sacrificing one thing that they love for another. And either way, you're sacrificing something. So and that's life sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but I remember watching it, and I remember that scene that you were talking about when the lady comes in right in the middle of her, and I remember just being like, I've been there. I've lost it. I even looked at Blue and I said, you see that? It's like, what? I was like, she lost it. She had it and then she lost it. And that's all it takes.
And someone interrupting.
And if any of you have ever acted or put yourself out there in a position of vulnerability creatively, you know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Having that moment and losing it.
Most definitely. And I want to give you something of a compliment here. I was having trouble deciding what I was going to pick for this, and I eventually went with kind of a broad spectrum of musicals that I really like through the ages, right? But stuff that I knew was going to rate pretty high.
Yeah.
What you brought to the table were 3 musicals I've never seen.
Mm-hmm. This was a ploy to get you to watch musicals that you've never seen.
That was pretty cool. So I appreciate that because I actually got to take in some new flicks.
Maybe we should make this a regular thing and have musical... I don't want to say Monday because I'm no damn well I'm not going to be here on a Monday.
Just see what's weird is when it comes to music, I feel like there's a lot that I love that you can't get into everything. In a lot of these movies, it was like you could get into almost everything. And there was a lot that I was like, Which... It's kind of reversed.
Could be. I mean, maybe that's how we operate. Maybe I have more of an open mind when it comes to movies, and you have more of an open mind when it comes to music. And we're finding the middle ground with this special.
Rayburn does the music podcast, and she should be doing a movie podcast. Apparently,
no. I mean, check back later. We might do something like that, but not going to be anytime soon. Or keep listening in the future for more specials where we'll be talking about more movies and other things of pop culture, books, whatever. More of that is to come.
Plenty of music stuff left to do for specials.
We're just playing around. We're just having fun.
This was just for fun.
One more thing that I want to say about La La Land. My favorite scene has nothing to really do with with the plot or the music or whatever. It's that stupid fucking scene where she catches him playing and asks him to play I Ran.
You know, if I'd thought about it long enough, I would have known that was your favorite part.
And just her, like, just being an asshole. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. The visuals are something.
And he just looks at her and he shakes her head once he realizes who requested it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Favorite song is City of Stars because it's amazing.
Yeah, he's a bit of a dick.
Yeah, and I love it. I love it.
I figured you did.
Best character. I mean,
gentlemen, take notes.
Do you see who I'm with? Sorry, Blue, I love you.
So obviously, because I front loaded my list, I won for myself. Where'd you fall? Did you even?
We're all winners here.
All right. Well, I guess if you're out there listening, you can go back and run the numbers and see who actually won.
We're all winners here. I mean, I think I gave two 5s and 1 4 to each of us. So, okay. I mean, if I didn't do points or whatever, I'm just going to stick to the fact that we're all winners here. Because, like I said before, I've seen 5 out of the 6 musicals that you
had seen before this.
Yes.
Not 5. Like I rated one even though I didn't watch it.
No, and I rewatched all of these over again just to make sure. I hadn't seen Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm.
Oh, okay.
Hadn't seen that, but I've seen everything else. And I saw Finian's Rainbow for the first time with you, which is no freaking surprise. And I laughed my ass off at I'm coming. Love it.
Yeah.
I still died the second go around watching it. It's still such a funny scene.
It's good.
So yeah, I'm sticking to we're all winners here because this was fun. And this is a fun conversation to have.
I'll agree. Watching films was a nice change of pace. If you're out there, please go and check some of these films out if you haven't seen them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though I couldn't fully get behind a lot of them, when it came to picking top, middle, and bottom for your picks, I was at a bit of a loss because I loved different things about them pretty equally.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I just felt like I was undervaluing La La Land for the pure spectacle play.
To be fair, it has gotten a lot of hate the more that time progresses. When it came out, everyone was like, oh, La La Land. And the famed Oscar scandal where, oh, La La Land won when really it was Moonlight. Like, people have not let that go. La La Land is a good watch. Would I call it the best musical that I've ever seen or even in the top 5 best musicals I've ever seen? No. But I wanted to offer a variety that I thought could hold some sort of value and variety up against yours.
When La La Land started, I was picturing, or it had me thinking that I was about to watch, and I couldn't understand it because I knew what the,
I hate the intro, by the way.
Critical scores are. But when that film started, I thought, okay, I'm watching something that's going to be like the Valley Girl remake.
Oh, dude.
Mixed with some comedy elements from like SNL's The Californians. Like I thought that's what was coming my way.
Love Letter to LA.
It wasn't. Luckily, but anyway, that's I think all we have for this special. So thanks, and we look forward to getting another one at you in the near future.
And remember, guys, whether it's in film form or disc form, fill your world with music.
Fucking watch Finian's Rainbow.